Good evening from Vietnam, Elisa. Thanks a lot for spending your morning, your afternoon joining our show and share your stories to our global audience. And on behalf of our listeners around the world, we want to say thank you to you.
And I thank you. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today. Thank you.
And you haven't been to our country, so please put it into your bucket list. So if you ever decided to travel to Southeast Asia, make sure you go to Vietnam. We would love to take you and your family around town.
Thank you. This is very kind. It's already on my to-do list, so now I will prioritize on it.
Yeah, wonderful to hear. And for a little taste of our culture, Elisa, it's a great honor for us to have you to do a little introduction about who you are and the work you are doing. Can you do that for us, please?
Absolutely. So I'm currently co-leading the Management Lab at Capgimini Invent. The Management Lab is a global think tank, and we specialize in management theories and practices. We work at the intersection of academia and the business world, the so-called the real world. And what we try to do is to take the latest ideas and turn them into practice and make them actionable for business leaders around the world. Over the years, we also exercised our own muscle of developing a thought leadership. And so in addition to ideas developed by others, we are also originators of some novels ideas. So more than happy to share some of them with you and your audience today.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. And Elisa, you do a lot of amazing things. You only share with us in less than 60 seconds. That's not fair for our audience. So, and the whole conversation is to unveil the journey that leading to what you are doing today. So, allow us to travel time together, shall we?
Absolutely, ready.
Okay. When I was little, I was fascinated with space travel, right? So I love to one day become an astronaut, wearing the suit and jump in a different planet. But life didn't give me any chance to do the thing that I loved when I was little. So for Elisa, when you were a little girl, what was your dream about your future and the works you're gonna do in the future, though?
Wow, interesting question. And you know what? I don't think I had just one dream. So when I think back, at least two dreams pops up in my mind. So the first one I recall was the dream to become a lawyer. Because when I was around 5 or 6 years old, my parents, they loved watching this TV show on the Italian TV, which was about some lawyers debating some topics and simulating some real cases, and the anchorman was so good, in engaging the audience, and it was so fascinating. So beyond the content, which obviously I couldn't grasp because I was too little, but the overall show and the dynamics and the type of conversations that we're having, so I decided, one day I will become a lawyer. And then it dropped from my list at some point. I don't remember when this happened. And then I started dreaming about, let's say, playing a role in some public international organizations. And when you are, let's say, around 10, 12, at least you get some exposure to some cool jobs like becoming an ambassador. And so I said, why? This will give me the opportunity to travel. And the third big dream I remember was to become a teacher at some point. Oh. And I think that my mom played a key role in modeling this job for me, and showing every day the passion that she put in her own job. And so I started thinking, maybe if she's so passionate about it, I should become a teacher. So long story short, I had more than one dream, and I think that more or less all the dreams bounded together, they contributed to Elisa of today.
Wow, absolutely. And amazingly that, except the fact that loyal is not the dream came true, right? So the other two actually happened to the work that you are doing at the moment, right? So working for international companies and then traveling the world and being a facilitator, a teacher, a person that can help organization to to change, right? So teaching a different setting. That's it. So go back to your mother. What did she teach?
Oh, she's now retired, but she used to be a math teacher in primary school.
Please tell her.
And she did this for like 35 years of her life. So she, yeah, it's in her DNA, let's say.
Yes, role model is very important, and be a role model at home to help generations to look for motivation, look for something that inspiring to do is amazing. What did your mother do that amazed you, makes you want to become a teacher? Share with us.
Well, let me remember. What I remember so vividly is the her ability to talk about her work in a way that you could feel the passion in the air. And so the body language, the tone of voice, and by the way, you know, we're Italian, so we do a lot of this body language things. And so the way in which she shared with me and later with my sister and then with my father what happened, you know, at work with our kids, and the progression also that she saw, you know, in the growth journey of her own kids. She felt so proud of herself, of making, let's say, a meaningful impact on the lives of her kids. And she was very good at storytelling. So going back to your point, absolutely. So it goes beyond feeling the passion. You need also to share your passion with others if you want to take them on board. And by the way, she never told me, Elisa, you should become a teacher one day. So and this is something that I will always recognize and appreciate of my mom, because she never pushed me or my sister to one specific career path, but the way in which she embodied her values, her principles, and the way in which also she nurtured some of her character features, I think it was an eye-opener role model for me and my sister.
So she's...
And by the way, also my father played a big role too. So now I'm not just saying that it was all my mother benefit, but also my father. But you know, my father, he was the tech guy doing these crazy things with technology back in the years. You know, I remember he coming home with one of the very first personal computers, this massive thing, great thing, and you know, so it was a bit more difficult to empathize with what my father was doing. Although later on he had an impact on my career, but in the early days it was more my mom.
Okay, let's, you know, to be fair, what did he have the impact on your career so that we can celebrate with him? Share with us.
Absolutely. I think that in a very gentle and kind way, he nudged myself and my sister to become familiar with new technologies and not to be afraid of embracing technological change, while always being cautious and exercising good judgment when using new tools and new technologies. I remember that he was the very first person telling me, have you heard about this Google thing? You should try out, you know? And again, he always did it in a very gentle way, you know? He was never, let's say, top-down, command and control, do this, do that, and so on. He tried, again, to nudge myself and my sister, sharing some examples, but without being, let's say, too much pushy with the two of us. And yeah, so later on in my career, you know, when I studied, especially in the consulting world, I immediately realized, you know, the importance of let's say, being open to technological shift, to avoid thinking that, oh, this will never touch my job. This will never be something that I should be familiar with or I should be knowledgeable about. And this is also what happened recently with generative AI. So so a big thank you also to my dad.
And amazing. You see, your mother and your father was so amazing in the way that they mentoring and coaching you and guiding you and your sister through the journey of change, so that you guys are ready to any change that could ever happen in this ever changing world, right? So I want to bring you to the high school time. So at 10 years old, you inspired to one day become a teacher, right? And that at high school time is where when you finish high school is when you decided, okay, what major you're gonna come and you're gonna take, because it's gonna shape the way for your future, near future. So what did you choose to study then?
So I choose obviously public administration and international organization economics. So I studied at Bocconi University, and this course was a 3-year course. And during this first, let's say, university experience, I fell in love, in the sense that, I was so amazed by the quantitative aspect related to some of my courses. And so then I shifted to economics and social sciences. So the last 2 years, I left, let's say, the international ecosystem, and I specialized more on quantitative methods for research. And so I'm an economist by background.
So how the journey from graduating to the works you are doing at Capgimini at the moment at the management lab?
Wow. Well, in between, a lot happened in my life. Okay. So I lived many different lives. So since when I graduated up to where I am today, and this is something that I keep telling also to students and MBA that I typically meet with, or let's say I have the honor and the privilege to have conversation with, is the fact that, the more diverse your career path is, especially in the first few years, and the deeper your personal journey of self-reflection and understanding becomes. And so I will share with you my journey, which is multifaceted, so very diverse. But now looking back, it gave me the unique opportunity to understand who Elisa is and who Elisa can become. Okay. So right after the university, so when I graduated, I started working at the university as a research assistant and teaching assistant within the economics department, in particular labor economics field, with one of the, let's say, most brilliant minds and thinkers globally. He's Professor Tito Boeri, and it has been a fascinating experience, very, very hard and challenging, as you can imagine, because the bar of excellence is more than 100%. It's so high that it feels impossible to achieve, but it gives you also the intrinsic motivation to invest, all your effort, all your time in doing the best that you can, and in learning as much as you can. So I felt like a sponge in the first 2 years working with this professor and his unique research team. So I absorbed so much. Always with this humility and feeling that, I was probably 10% compared to them, but always felt part of the team. And again, this is another important learning that I keep in my toolbox when I look back, because the fact that also junior people should feel, let's say, part of a more senior team. And especially in the early days, probably they will not contribute because they have no clue how to contribute. But the fact that you're making them feel part of the team can have massive impact on the motivation and the so-called drive. Daniel Pink would say the drive of these people. And so this happened in the first few years, just after I graduated. And then all of a sudden, I applied for a job posting online. It was an anonymous job posting. They were looking for a research assistant in a anonymous center in the middle of Paris. And I was, let's say, attracted by the fact that it was so mysterious, so anonymous. And so I traveled to Paris, and then when I got there, I still remember, I was just staring at this big door, typical Parisian door, close to Champs-Élysées. And then I saw that, Harvard Business School, and I started trembling, and I was like, what? So am I, going to interview for Harvard Business School? Yes. So long story short, then I spent another couple of years as research assistant at the Europe Research Center in Paris, which is an overseas research center of Harvard Business School. They have these research centers in each country. So they have one in Europe, South America, in India, in China, if I well remember, and again another, let's say, totally unexpected experience in my life. I was still in the academic world, so not so different from, let's say, the environment where I used to work, but very different tasks, because now I was expected, to write in English, because I was authoring and co-authoring case studies, articles for the magazine, contributing to some book chapters. So on the one hand, I was already very good and proficient in dealing with professors, so how to manage the team dynamics in an academic world. But then on the other hand, I was not a native speaker, so I was Italian, and I was expected to do something that it was not a purely quantitative approach, but it was more qualitative, storytelling and writing, and so totally out of my comfort zone. But then I still remember, my previous mentor and professor, Boeri, telling me, dream bigger, go, don't be afraid. You will find ways, to deliver on these new tasks, but don't give up. Don't say, oh, I'm not that kind of person. You're only 25, 26, so go and dream bigger. I spent 2 years in Paris, also traveling back and forth from Boston. We also started first discussions about enrolling in a PhD in Harvard. And I got to a point that I was, let's say, more yes than no in embarking on this journey. But then when I pause and reflect, because this is another important thing, so you should always pause and reflect about your key decision in your career journey. I evaluated very carefully the pros and cons, and I felt that I was not mature enough to embark on a PhD journey, because I wanted to see, let's say, more things, different things, especially on the other side of the world. So far I had spent 4 years and a half in the academic world. I also wanted to have a view and a foot in the real world, in the business world. And so that's why I got to meet my former boss, Alessandro Di Fiore. He was, by the way, the publisher at that time of Harvard Business Review in Italy. So that's why it happened by chance that we met in Paris. And he was starting his new venture, strategy consulting, with a branch, let's say a small branch for research center. And so he asked me to lead the research center, but then, we were such a small boutique consulting firm that in the end I had one foot in the research center and one foot in the consulting assignments. And this paid off, over time, because I also had to practice a bit the lawyer job, to be honest, because when you're consulting with big firms, you feel, the more senior you become, that you need also to master some of the lawyer skills and capabilities, especially in negotiation, let's say. And so I realized over time that there's beauty and power in working at the intersection of these two words, and avoid the trap of becoming siloed. So, and this is valid both for professors and academics, as well as for consultants, but also for people working in large organizations. And so I experimented firsthand the beauty of cross-fertilization, of continuous exchange, of learning. And initially it was more from the academic world to the business world. But in the last decade, we are also witnessing another wave coming from the business world and feeding into the academic world. If we take, for instance, sustainability is a topic in which organizations are much more advanced in thinking and practice compared to professors, because they have to deal with sustainability challenges every single day. And the complexity of sustainability challenges across fields, let's say, gives a sort of advantage to the businesses compared to academics and professors. And so, again, it's a mutual way of exchange and building on each other ideas and nurturing ideas. And this is what I love. This is what motivates me. This is what I see also is appreciated from both sides. Okay, the fact that they can both benefit from this exchange. It's not easy to work at the intersection of these two words because they speak different languages. They have different currencies. They have different paces, So the business world goes very, very fast, and the academic world goes a bit slower. And then the currency of the business is typically money, visibility, but this is not the currency of academics, who are, willing to collect data and publish on top A journals and develop their own theoretical frameworks, while the business, they want solution now. And so again, it's a matter of balancing the trade-offs, but when the magic happens, is fascinating, the value that you can unlock when you can put different peoples at the same table.
Beautiful, beautiful. And by when you moved to the management lab at Capgimini?
So the previous company was acquired by Capgimini, and so we transitioned, and so we were offered the opportunity to keep the DNA of the former boutique firm, and so we just changed the name, and we are now at the management lab within Capgemini and Ben.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, working in the academia and then moving to the business world, now you're standing in the intersection between the academia and the business world, build and bring the ideas between the two worlds together so that it can collaboratively create something that be useful for organizations, for practitioners around the world, right? So beautiful. Yeah. And I noted in here there's a lot of time that you put yourself out of the comfort zone in the area that of the expertise. You don't really have the expertise. You have to work a lot with a senior pupil, and a lot of people, whenever a lot of the listeners on our show, we face the same thing, same situation, maybe different setting, but the same situation like this. And a lot of them, we need to have advices from you. How could you be confident to get out of the comfort areas and pursue something that big?
Yeah. Okay. So let me share again my own experience,
yes.
Which might be beneficial to some people in the audience. First of all, when you find yourself out of the comfort zone and you expect yourself to succeed, you need to strive for excellence in performance. But there's a but. People tend to forget that they should also strive for excellence in the way they behave, in the character. It's like, when we talk about, in large organization, the need to balance profit and purpose. Okay? we can draw the analogy, and from the organizational standpoint to the individual level. So as individuals, we need to balance the excellent performance with the excellent person we want to be or to become. And all my mentors, they were showing every single day to me and to the rest of the team that they were striving both for excellence in performance in delivery as well as excellence in character. So being kind, being gentle, active listening, true empowerment. For me, this is excellence in character. And too often we're unbalanced on the excellence in performance. And so if you forget this dimension of you as an individual with your own character features, the risk is that, especially when you are out of the comfort zone, you will find yourself making trade-offs in a way that will lead you to behave in a way that probably is not your best version of yourself. And so this is my first suggestion. So to always keep in mind that there are two sides of the same coin when we talk about excellence. Excellence in how you deliver, you perform, and excellence in how you behave. The other suggestion is, what worked for me, at least, and it still works for me, is when I feel that I'm truly out of the comfort zone, but very, very out of the comfort zone, humor saves me. Humor is my anchor, okay? And so it's, typically it's presented humor as an icebreaker, for other people. To me, it works, the other way around. So it's my icebreaker, okay? So when I feel that I'm freezing, humor can, help me at least feel less burden on my shoulders. And so I can breathe, I can start smiling, I can become the best version of myself. And I see that also people react in a way that they start mirroring you. So the more you smile, other people will start smiling. And obviously, you need to be careful about how to dose the humor, not to exceed. But when I look back, and also when I meet with some former colleagues, they remember, oh, Elisa, you were, filling the room with the humor. And, in most of the situations that, were very difficult and challenging, the fact that, we were trying to at least light up a bit the atmosphere helped the team. And they did it, without even realizing, that I was, contributing to solving the solution. I was so junior at that time, but people appreciated it. And so also today, with my team and my colleagues, when there are some difficult situations, I try to be optimistic and also to show them that, we can be optimistic in a way that humor can help. And I remember that recently, also in Harvard Business Review, I remember reading an article about the power of humor. And I really recognized myself in that article, and I said, yeah, I can tell you that this is working. It can really help people.
Beautiful, beautiful. Elisa, teach us, out of the, so many things, so many priorities, so many, things to do at hands for a lot of people, the humor become expensive. It becomes something that luxurious to a lot of people. So for you, being able to work in the, in the different currency between the business world and academic, right? And then a different pace, different expectation. You have to manage a lot of priority, a lot of expectations differently, a lot of stakeholders to manage, right? How could you pump the energies for you every day to to show up and still have the bring humor at work?
Wow. Well, definitely it's also part of my character. So it's true that it comes natural to me. Okay, but I remember once, it was in the early days of my new life as a consultant, and my boss at that point in time, he told me, if you want to be credible in interaction with the clients, don't feel afraid of smiling, he told me. So you don't have, to be serious to look credible, first of all. So you can be your true self. So if you want to smile, please do smile. Because obviously he saw me, let's say, in the office, and in the office it was Elisa smiling, but then in the client setting, I was becoming, much more formal and serious. And so the first recommendation was, Elisa, please remember that you can be your true self, obviously. And he suggested, to just write on a post-it, on a small post-it, and glue it on my laptop screen. Remember to smile, especially during the video conferencing meetings, especially at the beginning, again, because I was very, very nervous. So if I completely forgot that, the way in which I was interacting with people, my body language was indirectly having a negative influence on others, because the very moment that you look tense, that you look nervous, people will absorb like a sponge all your feelings. And so, again, probably may sound, too simplistic, but sometimes just having, let's say, a small yellow post-it close to your laptop, remembering you to smile more, or let's say to inject some humor into the conversation. But the same is valid also for other suggestion or a piece of advice that they give as a coach to junior consultants, especially when they are female. For instance, female tend to say sorry, oh, apologies, sorry, I'm late, sorry, I'm here, sorry, I'm there. And so my suggestion is always, please write on a post-it, stop saying I'm sorry. So at least, the artifact, the small artifact will help you remember, the do's and don'ts. And I think that this is valid also when it comes to humor. So people who probably are not, let's say, natural, ironic people, okay, having a small post-it. And it's also important to give candid feedback to other colleagues, and don't be afraid, to do a pat to your colleagues, say, oh, well done the presentation, but next time, please, smile a bit more, you look too serious. Yeah. And so it's a mix of things. I think it's seeking and gathering feedback, is using artifacts to remind you, the do's and don'ts. And then, keep telling to yourself, especially in my work, that I'm not saving lives. At least that's not my job. I try to do the best to have a small, meaningful impact. There are good days and bad days, but in the end, you want other people to feel good at work, to feel good at interacting with you. So put a smile on your face and try to have an impact on their lives.
Yes, and then you guys are doing amazingly, to help organization to improve, right? And then when they can make improvement on their organization, then they can create a better work environment, and then the employees going to work happy, then they're going home happy, and the conversation at the dining table at home would be happy. That then it's build a hope and dreams for young generation, their children, going to work in the future, be happy. So thanks a lot for doing that. I note down in here is the work balance also, Elisa. Okay, so you have been working with incredible bosses, and then now you're the one also, making that balance between performance, right, and character, with performance and personal, right, and balance is extremely debatable these days. So how could you and your bosses, what did you guys do that can make that balance in between that two paradigm?
Well, first of all, I think that you need some hard rules and some guardrails if you want to protect and preserve and foster such balance. And so, to different extents and, let's say, different ways, because again, I worked in different cultures. I worked in Italy, I worked in France, I worked in the US, I worked in Germany. But overall, what helped me and my colleagues strike the right balance was the fact that there were some fixed rules and fixed pillars. And I give an example. For instance, Saturday and Sundays are not meant, for doing work, unless and this is the exception and not the rule, we align on the Friday before leaving the office, and we say, okay, this is an important deadline that we have on Monday, based on your personal and family endeavors, who can help on this and who can contribute during the weekend. But it's a joint decision about how to deliver in special conditions, for instance, during the weekends. During the week, the late hours is more, let's say, on a day-to-day basis. It truly depends. This is typically in the life of every consultant, but the weekend is sacred to me. The other point is that I saw a dramatic shift and change in perspective when I compared the before and the after the pandemic. So before COVID-19 outbreak, consultants, they were not even able to think, that another life could exist or other ways of working could exist. Okay, it was you in the office / at the client side, full stop.
Yeah.
The pandemic changed the game. And changed also the minds and the hearts of the most senior people who probably and most likely had unique opportunity to spend more time with their own families.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, also today within Capgimini, we can, let's say, handle the remote working as we see it fits. So depending on the deadlines, depending on the client endeavors, it's our decision to balance. Obviously, few days in the office are mandatory, but I think it's a good rule, also to force people to go back to the human interaction. But then on the other hand, you need to give people the freedom and the flexibility, and I think it's also the glue that can help cultivate trust.
Yeah.
Between the employee and the employer. The fact that I trust you, notwithstanding you are in the office or at home, that you will do the job at your own best. I think it's also the result of some rules like this that inject some flexibility into the way of working, and indirectly they impact on the trust index or the trust level between people in the organization. But definitely the pandemic changed dramatically.
Yep.
And when I hear some of our clients going back to the 5 days per week in the office, the old way of working, it makes me feel sad, because especially if I try to put myself in the shoes of the employees, the perception is, okay, so you no longer trust me. So the way in which you're making decision now maybe is a reflection of the fact that something happened, so you no longer trust us that we can work from home. And again, this can, let's say, generate a scar that might be very difficult to heal in the medium term.
I think the pandemic, it teaches a lot of new things to a lot of us also. So it took life, but also create a new way of living also, and it's too new for the business world to really understand it, and in the academic world also doesn't have a lot of data to back it up. So the management lab at Capgemini is the way that can help to bridge that gap and help business leaders make sound decisions for their organizations. And so tell us, with a lot of new changes also with the generative AIs and a lot of things like that, and your work's even more important these days. Tell us what your life is doing.
So generative AI has been a big bang for all of us.
Yeah.
And I must be honest that exactly 1 year ago, I was a bit skeptic about, how generative AI or this ChatGPT thing could impact our way of working, but also our contents and our, let's say, approach of delivering both the thought leadership and some client projects. And then within our team, I need to thank my colleagues who pushed me, again, nudged me, like my father did. And this reminded me immediately my father, why don't you, let's say, open an account on ChatGPT and start playing with it. Let's have a look. Because, they kept saying it to me, we're a bit amazed by, the potential of this thing. So why don't you develop your own point of view? And then in parallel, editors, publishers with whom we, let's say, regularly interact with, they started asking for our point of view, my point of view on generative AI, especially for management. And so when I bundled the two things, I said, they are nudging me to start playing with the thing. Externals are asking for my point of view. Maybe it's time now for, going online and have a look at this ChatGPT thing. So it goes without saying that it was, let's say, a wow experience. Okay. So our first approach to generative AI was to start using it within our own domain of expertise. And so being experts on management theories and practices, we said, okay, let's start experimenting with the machine in a way that we feel we have the expertise to judge and to differentiate whether the output is of good quality or is an hallucination or is lacking some information and so on. And again, this is one of the recommendations that I always give to people. So start from what you know. Because if you want to feel confident and comfortable in challenging the machine, start from your own field of expertise. We published an ebook with Harvard Business Review Italy. It was June last year. And we shared the results of our first experiments in which we were asking ChatGPT how generative AI can either enhance or radically disrupt some of the most popular theories. And the book was a success in the sense that, we were approached by many people, online, offline, because to be honest, we were pioneers. We were the very first ones asking such questions about the impact of this technology on management. Then we traveled to the US and we did some sort of, let's say, small roadshow across various universities on the East Coast. And at that point in time, they were listening in a curious way. They were asking questions, the academics. But again, they were taking distance from generative AI, in part because, the university was banning the use of ChatGPT, in part because they felt, like myself 6 months before, a skeptic person saying, it will never impact my job and my way of teaching. But then in the last 6 months, things have radically changed, especially in the academic world. And we should thank some influencers and pioneers like Professor Ethan Malik or Professor Connor Grennan, the Dean of NYU, for creating this wave of awareness, of increasing awareness, for ringing the bells and pushing people, especially in the academic fields, from professors to students, to start getting familiar with the technology, to embrace the technology, to find the good ways, responsible ways of using it. And in parallel, we saw similar shifts also in the business world. But there's a but. If on the one hand, the percentage of executives who buy into this concept of generative AI, who believe that this is a disruptive technology to be embraced, to invest in, and so on and so forth, only a very small percentage of these executives use it on a daily basis. And so this is a worrying gap between the, let's say, the talking and the walking, okay? So this knowing-doing gap is something that needs to be urgently filled in. And so we started experimenting with professors, with practitioners on some managerial use cases to show also managers that it's not a technological barrier. The technology is there. You as a human, you are the barrier now, because the technology could do much more things if you know how to interact in a proper way with the machine. And so again, long story short, over the last 8 months, we've been, let's say, prototyping some human-machine conversations, which can either, let's say, be applied with a conversational interface like ChatGPT, or they can also become a bot. But this is not the point. It's not the technological solution. It's the way in which we as human can drive and architect the conversation with the machine. And this is very overlooked. And this is still overlooked as an aspect. The most common narrative is about how to use generative AI for automation, semi-automation, as an assistant. We are all familiar with the Copilot concept, thanks also to Microsoft 365 Copilot. But this is just one way of interacting with the machine. The more complex the tasks, the more uncertain some problems, the different interaction mode is needed. And so this is what we call the co-thinker. So the machine can be either your assistant co-pilot or can become your sparring partner. And this is not about pushing a button and waiting for the machine to give you the magic answer, the perfect solution. It's about interacting with the machine. And the machine is very good at taking different roles, at taking the point of view of different stakeholders. The machine is very good at becoming your methodological guide, especially on well-known theories and practices, what I mentioned at the beginning. So the first experiment was a wow moment. We realized that the machine was very proficient in theories like blue ocean strategy, okay? And so it truly depends on how you can strategize the conversation with the machine. But then ultimately, is you, the human, making the decision? Is you, the human, deciding what type of conversation would like to have, the type of output? So it's no longer pressing a button, clicking OK, and waiting for magic to happen, but it's how you engage with this new team member. This requires building a capability. So we are at the dawn of a new management capability. And the academic world has now fully realized this compared to 1 year ago. And so they are investing, in aligning the course, teaching material, and so on to fill this gap. Managers and executives are understanding that, they can't watch from the outside, but they need to get also themselves the hands dirty with the technology. And ultimately, we need also to raise awareness on the importance of the mindset, of the character, what I was saying before. So the machine will be a booster for our excellence in performance, but it's our duty and responsibility to also boost and make sure that we are also excellent humans in the way in which we use the technology. So the mindset that we would like our people to embody and to embrace when using AI, generative AI, metaverse, and all the new technologies that are coming up on our way, we need to be excellent humans, responsible humans. And so that's what we're doing right now. So
from being skeptic to being fully supporting and spread the technology out to the community, so people be aware of that and be fluent at using it. Here you said core thinking, right? So a lot of people now are afraid of the generative AI. The will replace their jobs, right? And definitely new job will come in replacement, and the old job will be obsolete because of the technology disruptive like this, right? So, in your opinion, what would be us focus on learning and growing so that we can cope with the change of the generative AI?
I don't have the magic ball. So the crystal ball, I cannot predict how many jobs will be replaced, how many jobs will be created. But for sure, when we look at the past technological waves, in the long term, the job creation outperformed the job destruction. So that's positive. That's confirmed. But this is in the long term. So in the short term, we should expect some disruptions, as you were saying. And we're already, let's say, experiencing this. So if you analyze, for instance, the traded gigs on platforms like Upwork, capability sourcing platforms where you can find experts and buy days, hours of these experts. There are some tasks, some jobs that are dramatically reducing in terms of demand. And there are a lot of research studies and academic papers that confirm a stronger correlation between the advent of ChatGPT and the like tools with this dramatic shift and reduction. But then others have also increased as well. And so again, we need to be ready and flexible in adapting to these shifting waves of jobs, but I would say of tasks, creation and destruction. Because when I look at the common management tasks, the single task, if you unpack it, there could be some subtasks that are already today fully automated by the technology, but other subtasks that truly need you in order to be completed and successfully executed. And so, again, I think that this goes back to the H factor. So in the formula, the most important element is not the technology, but is the human. The human in the way it designs, it develops the technology, in the way it uses the technology, and in the way also humans ponder decisions about future impact of decisions that you are making today on people, society, environment of tomorrow. So in practical terms, what people can start doing, first of all, stop talking about generative AI and start using generative AI technologies. There's not only ChatGPT in this world. Obviously, it's the most commonly used. It has the easiest interface. It's already multimodal. There are many other tools that can be used, and especially younger generations. They need to start exercising this muscle of being flexible and adaptable and becoming more and more familiar with new technologies as they make their entry on the technological landscape. The second point, as I said, start from your domain of expertise. Start interacting with the machine. You can start with, let's say, a pure assistance mode. So ask the machine to execute something for you, judge the outcome, evaluate, give feedback, enter into this mutual learning experience. Or once you feel, let's say, much more confident, you can also start thinking together with the machine. So you can tell the machine, in the type of conversation that you would like to be engaged with. You can tell the machine, what questions you would like the machine to ask you. Because this is the other key difference. Majority of people are using the machine, to ask a question and wait for the answers. But what I always tell them is, have you ever tried asking the machine to pose some questions to you and help you think and reflect on the answers? And then they look at me and they say, oh, can the machine do this? Absolutely. You need to instruct the machine. And this is not super sophisticated. You don't need to be proficient in coding or programming. It's just about being human. So tell in a conversational way the machine what you would like the machine to ask you, and then take it from there and build on the conversation. The point is that all of this takes time and takes effort, and we all know that people are lazy. And so most of these people say to me, oh, but I love to press the button and just wait. Okay, so if you just wait to press the button, probably you're using the technology at 20% or 30% of its potential for your own field, and probably you will be outperformed by other managers in 6 to 9, 10 months from now who are building this capability and you are left behind, because this gap is already happening. Yeah. So we're already seeing this gap growing between the top performer and people who keep saying, oh, it will never touch my manager job. But if you start analyzing what the machine can do right now, already, let's say, a good number of tasks that can be well performed by the machine. And the good thing is that most of these tasks are routine, bureaucratic, admin, very time consuming. And so you can free up the time and use it, for thinking, for, let's say, brainstorming with your group, for reading, for studying. And so, again, I think it's our duty and responsibility to understand what the technology cannot do today, but can do it tomorrow, and should never do.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. I have a few last questions for you before we end our conversations. And in this conversation, you mentioned the word that I love hearing a lot, think and thinking. All right. So my wife and I, we have been on a journey to helping people to improve their ability to think, because we believe that our thinking capability is diminishing. And if we can ask experts around the world on how they have been improved their ability to think and expanding their thinking capability over the years, and those listeners can listen to those tips and techniques so that they can reflect, learn, and apply, that could help them to think better. And that is a starter for changing and making some positive change. So Elisa, how have you been improving your ability to think over the years?
3 ways. Read to think, write to think, and network to think. So first of all, you need to read, which does not mean, 1 book per week, but at least, let's say, 2 books per year at least. So you need to nurture your thinking with novel ideas, also outside, your field of expertise. So, but just by reading, you definitely can absorb novel ideas and approaches. The second, as I was saying, is writing. So when I was at Harvard Business School as a young case writer and research assistant, I experimented firsthand the power of writing. So put down in writing your thoughts and how powerful this can be in refining your thinking and spotting, let's say, overlooked items, asking yourself new questions. And the third point is about networking. So don't close yourself in a silos. Exchange as much as possible, converse as much as possible with others. We tend to say that we don't have time to read, to write, and to network. Well, maybe it's time to make the time for reading, for writing, and for networking.
Beautiful, thank you. Read, write, and networking, right? So, Elisa, you have a lot of amazing people in your life who help you to grow through nudging instead of, telling you what needs to be done and stuff like that, right? And so there's an old saying that our network, net worth is about the value of the 5 people next to us most, right? So what kind of people that you like to spend time and or associate time with most in your life?
Well, in the life of a consultant, you spend most of your time with colleagues and clients, which do not equate always to the best people you would like to spend your time with, but jokes aside, again, humor. So let me say that family first, family and friends, because they are the perfect mentors. They are people who know you as a person, who will give you the candid feedback you need in most of the situations. And so out of the 5 people, my suggestion would be also to make sure that you have some family and friends within your inner circle. And then at least 1 person that you admire, 1 person that, let's say, you feel it could be, let's say, the model you would like to aspire to. And I do understand that in most of the cases, these people are not, at easy reach, but there could be some intermediate levels, intermediate role models. And the third point is via LinkedIn. I discovered LinkedIn in the last, let's say, 3 to 4 years. Before, I was not a LinkedIn person. But for instance, going back to the networking aspect and looking for good positive influence, I'm amazed by the power of LinkedIn as a community, opening the doors to people that I would have never thought about reaching out and then meeting you, for instance. It's the beauty, again, it's the beauty of the community, of the networking, and how you nurture relationships. So that definitely it's a family, it's friends, is a role model, or people that you admire as role models, and also people that you don't know, but that you still admire and that you can, let's say, ghost in them on LinkedIn.
So who is the person that you admire on your list? You want to share with us in this conversation?
Oh, well, today I'm lucky enough that, I have a solid network also, let's say, much more famous and successful people than I am, which, by the way, I don't consider me as a successful person yet, but in any case, I had the privilege and the honor, especially through the Fingers 50 community, to know a lot of, let's say, the best thinkers and the best minds. And so I'm lucky enough to have a long list of people that I admire, and I have the opportunity to interact, let's say, on a frequent basis. So absolutely, and they are, let's say, mostly from the academic world. But recently, I discovered also let's say, the power of interacting with coaches, but not in a traditional way, let's say, of coaching others, and so I'm now in contact with 2 or 3 coaches, and when we exchange, let's say, personal and professional experiences, is always so an enriching experience, because they wear different lenses compared to people in business, compared to people in the academic world. And so I'm now adding this new category of people in my, let's say, inner circle, and I must say that I'm truly amazed by their ability to read the situations in a way that is completely different to what I'm used to. And so again, it's a valuable sharing, but also mutual learning experience. And so coaches are absolutely a target that it was not on my radar list, because I think this is very Italian. So we're not used at, a lot of coaching, which is a pity. I'm now realizing. So yeah, I definitely coaches are a great category to have in your circle.
Our friends at HBR.it, Code Hub, a better up will be so happy hearing, what Elisa just saying. Thanks for bring coaching into this conversation. I have 2 last one before we end the conversation. One, we know your dreams when you were young, all right? So 3 dreams, right? And then we know the works that take into the management lab at Capgimini at the moment. And thanks for doing a lot of amazing work to help leaders make better decisions, make better strategy for their companies, and then make better change for their organizations also, to help create a better workplace for everybody. The future, we want to talk about it. If we're not talking about the future, it's not fair. Okay, so is there anything Elisa Farri is working on? She's happy, she's exciting, she want to share with us, so that we as an audience, we can celebrate with her in advance
today? So I decided this year to spend and devote more time to raise awareness and to experience sharing more with the students, university students and MBA. And so I'm making the time to meet with these brilliant minds and try to inspire them. Because again, they are the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I can do my best with the leaders of today, but probably I can have more impact if I, let's say, inspire the leaders of tomorrow. So this is on top of my job, but it's highly rewarding, and so I will do more of it this year.
Beautiful, beautiful. You build the seed today, and then that's it. 10 years, 20 years longer later, becoming a beautiful tree with with flower and fruits, right? So beautiful. Congratulations on the book. I really curious about that. Please let us know when it's coming out, okay?
Absolutely.
So the last question is about you now. If you travel to talk to the you when you first having a dream of becoming a lawyer, all right, and Elisa here now, what message would you tell Elisa then about the journey that you already embarking on?
Dream bigger.
Dream bigger.
Dream bigger, dream bigger, dream bigger. Don't dream average, but dream bigger.
Elisa,
absolutely.
Thanks a lot for a beautiful conversation that we are having tonight, and I will join you in on spreading the awareness of the work you are doing, the importance of for us to make the doing instead of the talking and start the using the technologies. I will talk to my team to move the conversation ahead of time as soon as possible. I'll let you know in advance because I saw so many things in here that is very meaningful, but it's needed for us at the moment. So maybe in 3 months time it's late. Okay, so make time for what's important. Thank you for being so kind to share your amazing journey with humor also. So it reminds us a lot about living. And Elisa, I love to see you in person one day, and make sure that you put us in Vietnam to your bucket list. Okay?
Thank you. I will do, and my thank you for walking me through this personal journey of self-reflection. So it has been an emotional journey. So thank you so much for making this happen.
I hope you enjoy the conversation as I do. Okay. Thanks and say goodbye for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later.
Let's keep in touch.
Yes.
Bye.
Keep in touch. Bye bye.